mothers do.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rajamargam gate Krishna Dwarakaya Kulastriyaha Harmanya Ruruhur Vipra Tadiska Iksana Mahotsavaha.
When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival.
Nityam nirikshamananam yadapi dwarakokasam navidvipyanti trishaha shriyodhamangamachutam.
The inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoirs of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated.
Shriyonivasho yashyoraha panapatra disham bahavolokapalanam sarangana padambujam.
The Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk and sing of any subject except his lordship.
Sitatapatra vyajane rupa upashkritaha prashuna vaser abhivashitaha pati Vishang Vanamalaya Paubha Kano Yatharko Dupa Chapa Vedyutahi.
As the Lord passed along the public roads of Dwarka, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feathered fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and the garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud were surrounded simultaneously by sun, moon, lightning, and rainbows.
Pravistastu griham pitro Parisvakta Swami Matribhihi Bhavande Sirasa Sapta Devaki Pramukha Muda.
After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisances unto them by placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother.
Taputraman Kamaropya Sneha Snuta Payodharaha Harsa Vivalitatmanaha Sisi Chuneta Jalehi.
The mothers were embracing their sons, sat him on their laps. Due to pure affection, milk sprang from their breasts. They were overwhelmed with delight, and the tears from their eyes wetted the Lord.
Ate Visatva Pavanam Sarvakama Manuttamam Prasadayatra Patninam Sahasrani Chasodasa.
Therefore, the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect to the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000.
Patna Patim Prosya Grihanupagatam Vilokya Sanjata Mano Mahotsavaha Uttasthurarat Sahasasanaya Syat sakam vrate viditta lochananaha.
The queens of Lord Shri Krishna rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations. As was social customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly.
Tamatmaje drishtibirantaratmana durantabhavaha parire patim nirudhamapyasravadambunitrayor vilajatinam bhriguvaryaveklavat.
The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens, who were shy, first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But, O chief amongst the Brigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears.
Ya Yadyapyasa parsvagato raho katas tathapi tasyangri yugam navam pade pade kavirameta tat padach chalapi yatrina jahati karhichit.
Although Lord Shri Krishna was constantly by their sides, as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So, what woman can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them?
Evam nripanam shiti bharajanmanam Akshehini parivita tejasam Vidhaya veram swasano yathanalam Mitho vadheno parato nirayuttaha.
The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, etc. He himself was not party in the fight. He simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind, which causes friction between bamboos and so spark a fire.
Saesa naralokesmin avatina swamayaya reme striratnakutastho bhagavan prakrito yatha.
That supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs.
Uttama bhava pishuna malavalguhasa vidavalokkanihato maganopi yasam samuya chapamajjahat pramodotamasta yasyendriyam vimethitum kuhakena shekuhu.
Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord.
Tamayamanyate loko yasangamapi sanginam atma pamyena manujam vyaprin vanam yato buddhaha.
The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached.
Etadishanamishasya प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि तद्गुणैः न युज्यते सदात्मास्थिर्यथा बुद्धिस्तदाश्रया.
This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities.
तामनेरिबलामुत्था स्त्रीणां चानुव्रतां रहः अप्रमाणविदो भर्तुर्ईश्वरां मतयो यथा.
The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Shri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as a supreme controller. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Thank you for recitation. That was really lovely recitation for Russia and also to Sanjita Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
It's beautifully recited. Thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, check. Can you all see that?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, okay. For some reason it's not coming on my screen. Okay, as long as you can see that, yeah. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, verse 24, 25, and 26 we'll be reading. And the particular chapter is entitled Lord Krishna's Entrance to Dwarka. I just sampled vacation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So there's quite a lengthy purport to each of the verses. So I'm just going to read one of the purports and then I'll discuss about that particular verse. And then I'll go into the second verse and third verse. So this is verse 24. Raja Magam Gata Kate Krishna Prakaya Tulashtiya Amani Aruho Vipra Radikshana Mahotsava. When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwarka went up to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival. Okay, I just mute somebody. If you are unmuted, please mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. To have a look at the Lord is a great festive occasion, undoubtedly, as it was considered by the metropolitan ladies of Dwarka. This is still followed by the devout ladies of India, especially during the days of the Jula and Janmashtami ceremonies. The ladies of India still throng up in the greatest number of the temple of the Lord, where His transcendental eternal form is worshipped. The transcendental form of the Lord installed in the temple is not different from the Lord personally. Such a form of the Lord is called Archa Vigraha, or Archa Incarnation, and is expanded by the Lord by His internal potency just to facilitate the devotional service of His innumerable devotees who are in the material world. The material senses cannot perceive the spiritual nature of the Lord, and therefore the Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, which is apparently made of material elements like earth, wood, and stone, but actually there is no material contamination. The Lord, being Kaivalya, one alone, there is no matter in Him, is one without a second, and therefore the Almighty Lord can appear in any form without being contaminated by the material conception. Therefore, festive in the temple of the Lord, as held generally, are like festivals performed during the manifestive days of the Lord of Dwarka, about 5,000 years ago. The authorized acharyas who know the science perfectly install such temples of the Lord and their regulated principles, just to offer facilities to the common man. But persons who are less intelligent without being conversant with the signs mistake this great attempt to be idol worship and poke their nose into that which they have no access. Therefore, the ladies of men who observe festivals in the temple of the Lord, just have a look at the transcendental form, are 1,000 times more glorious than those who are non-believers in the transcendental form of the Lord. It appears from the verse that the inhabitants of Dwarka were all owners of big palaces. This indicates the prosperity of the city. The ladies got up on the roofs just to have a look at the procession of the Lord. The ladies did not mix with the crowd on the street, and thus their respectability was perfectly observed. There was no artificial equality with man. Female respectability is preserved more elegantly by keeping the woman separate from the man. The sexes should not mix unrestrictedly. So I just recite the Mangalam verse. Om Jnana Timandasya Jnanam Jana Shalakaya Chakshuramatam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Adati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrajatam Sagana Raghunathamitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shiva Shakam Tamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapte Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sakari Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you everyone for joining in for today's chat session. Kindly seek your blessings and seek the blessings of my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Chor Swami, Namo Vishnupada, Vishnu Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Chor Swami Tinamane, and also to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, who kindly allow me to speak on the wonderful topics, glorious topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Namo Vishnupadaya, Vishnu Bhutale, Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pujayane, Nirvishesa Sundravadi Paschatyadi Satayane. Okay, so this particular verse, just to start off with, has anybody been to Dwarka at all?
Yes, I've been.
You've been, Krishna, good, Mataji? Yes.
Yes.
Anybody else? Nobody else has been to Dwarka. I'm so surprised. It's one of the holy dhams.
You've been, Prabhuji?
You've been, yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So there's many holy places we can all visit within Vrindavan, within India, holy places. One of them is, of course, Vrindavan, Mathura. Other places are like Jagannath Puri, and of course Mayapur and Navadvip. And then Dwarka as well is such a beautiful place as well to go and see. This is mainly North India referring to. Dwarka city, although it was actually built by the instructions of Lord Krishna to Vishwakarma, the great demigod, the architect demigod. And he built the city in such a way that it was so beautiful. It was a cosmopolitan city, had many roads there, had many tall buildings. It was laid with beautiful gardens and parks and reservoirs and fountains, birds of different variety and animals of different varieties were actually inhabiting that particular city itself. You can see from this particular verse where it was actually saying that when Krishna came to come back after the Kurukshetra war, that everybody came to greet him, and it was such a huge, tremendous festival. a festival, Maha festival, is called a Mahotsava, as you can see from this word here, Mahotsava. So sometimes we say Shri Krishna Janmashtami Mahotsava Ki Jai, Shri Ram Navami Mahotsava Ki Jai. So it's referring to a major festival. And this particular festival, as you can see, when they saw the Lord, they never got tired of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he was always fresh, always youthful. He was always so exquisite in every way. His smile, his eyes, his bodily features, the way he walked, everything, his actions. And then on the next verse, which will follow, I'll discuss a little bit more about how the ladies were actually observing seeing Krishna come to the city of Dwarka, how they were feeling. So just here, just briefly, I know last week I spoke a little bit about the importance about deity worship, but once again, we're covering this topic again in this particular verse. This is where we're referring to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its deity form. It's recognized as Archa Vigraha. So Archa refers to incarnation. It's actually an expansion of the Supreme Lord. But sometimes people misunderstand and they see it as an idol, but actually, no, it's not an idol. The idea is that certain ceremonies and prayers, certain invocation prayers are recited to invite the Supreme Lord and reside in this particular form of himself. And this particular form can be made of 8 different substances. Does anybody know what those 8 substances are? Got a clue here. Some of them are actually mentioned here. You know, a lot of devotees feel shy.
Earth, wood, and stone.
Yep, that's 3 of them. Anything else you can think of? So there's 8 particular substances that the Supreme Lord can be made into a deity form. So that is stone, as we normally see a marble deity form of the Lord. We can see metal, sometimes made out of gold or bronze or different kind of materials. It can be made out of earth as well, sometimes referred to as clay. It can be made out of wood, so it's a special particular wood. Like when you look at the wood, when you see the deity form of Lord Jagannath Subhadra Baladev, it's not just made from an ordinary wood. The actual priests actually go and search a particular wood in the forest, a particular tree, and they sort of tap it. It has to have a certain sound, and from that sound they can actually ascertain whether this is the right tree to be manufactured for the deity form of the Lord. So that's wood, the stone, there's clay, and there's also a paint. Suppose you see paintings of the Lord that you can actually worship in the same form as a deity. And also sand as well. You can actually have sand, which is drawn on the ground. You know, when you go to the holy places like in Vrindavan, you see the Ramanareti, which is a beautiful sand. You know that it's transcendental because the Supreme Lord actually walked on that particular path of Ramanareti in his childhood pastimes. The other form or substance that you can make into a deity form is jewelry. But the last one, which a lot of people don't always catch, is the mind. So we mentioned that last time. You can have Manasa Puja. So in your mind, you can meditate on the Supreme Lord in his deity form as well. So these are the 8 substances that you can use to manufacture the Supreme Lord. But there is absolutely no contamination when you actually worship this. It's not based on a material conception at all, because the idea is that this particular deity form is actually being invited by special prayers, as I mentioned, and they're actually worshipped as if it's no different from the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord appears millennium after millennium, and whenever he appears, you never get tired of him in the different forms. He comes in different forms, like Matsya, the fish. He comes in Varaha as the boar. He comes as the tortoise, as Lord Kumar, half man, half lion, as Lord Nrsimhadev. And of course, he comes in a human form, as well as Lord Ramachandra and Krishna. But unfortunately, when the earthly people, those who are envious of the Supreme Lord, they do not understand him as the Supreme Lord. So Krishna actually tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, fools deride me when I'm discerning this human form of life. They do not know me as the transcendental Lord of all that be. Because they are envious, they don't see the Supreme Lord as the Supreme One, as the creator of the whole creation, both material and spiritual worlds. They don't see him as the super soul residing in one's heart. They don't see him as the controller of everything that exists. But they, because of their envy, they just see him as a human person. And thus, due to their envious nature, then unfortunately, they can never surrender to the Supreme Lord. So we have to be important that we don't confuse deity worship to idol worship, because idol worship is something concocted where you just make up any old object for your own material pleasure, material sense gratification. But here, when you worship the Supreme Lord, this deity form, you're actually worshiping the Supreme Lord for who he is as the Supreme Lord. You know, one without a second. You're not praying to him for some material benefits, well, at least not from a pure devotee point of view. You're just simply worshiping him because you know he is the Supreme Lord. He's the cause of all causes. And here, the portion at the end was quite important as well. Srila Prabhupada actually mentions about the inhabitants of Dwarka had very, very big palaces, but it also indicates that when the ladies were going up to the roofs, they did not necessarily want to mix with the rest of the crowd. And Srila Prabhupada explains that this is all due to the respectability of the women during that time of society 5,000 years ago. The women were protected. They weren't looked upon as a mother or a wife or a sister. Unlike nowadays, we tend to mix very freely wherever we go right now. And even in the temple, within the ISKCON temple, certainly we have a certain division, the men on one side and the women on the other side. And many people may think, well, this is a bit, discriminating. But we're not doing it out of discrimination, but it's also out of respectability and also for the respect for the women as well. Sometimes they don't want to be mixed with the other men who may be appropriately touching them, but also to protect the children as well who are with their mothers as well. Sometimes people may say, well, if the super soul within the heart of every living entity, then why are you discriminating? Shouldn't you all mix together? Like some traditions, they allow men and women to mix together. But and from the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, it says that the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision the learned sage sees everybody equally, but he sees the super soul in the hearts of everyone. He sees the super soul, he sees the Jivatma soul, and he doesn't distinguish one person from another person. But from a perspective from spiritual and material level, there has to be discrimination. So similarly, just like the way brahmacharis are kept in one sort of side and an ashram, and the ladies are kept in another side of the ashram, to avoid any mixing unrestrictedly. The next verse, I'll just read that. Just make sure I've covered everything on my notes. Okay, next verse is verse 25. Nitya nirikshamanam yadapi varakokshasham na vitripyati drisha shriyadamangamachutam. Translation: the inhabitants of Dwarka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated. Report: when the ladies of the city of Dwarka got up on the roofs of their palaces, they never thought they had previously many times seen the beautiful body of the infallible Lord. This indicates that they had no satiation in desiring to see the Lord. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. The law of satiation acts materially. There is no scope for it in the spiritual realm. The word infallible is insignificant here, because although the Lord has mercifully descended to the earth, he is still infallible. The living entities are fallible because when they come in contact with the material world, they lack the spiritual identity, and thus the bodily maturely obtained. I'm sorry. And thus the body maturely obtained becomes subjected to birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation under the laws of nature. The Lord's body is not like that. It descends as He is, and is never under the laws of the material modes. His body is the source of everything that be, the reservoir of all beauties beyond our experience. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always manifestations of newer beauties. The transcendental name, form, qualities, entourage, etc., are all spiritual manifestations, and there's no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord. There's no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord. There's no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. It is the source of all and is limitless. So this is another beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Explains everything in detail so nicely. But first of all, when the ladies were actually seeing all of the inhabitants of Dwarka, when they saw the beautiful Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all pleasure, they were never satiated. So sometimes people misunderstand what the word satiated means. Satiated means when somebody's fully satisfied. Suppose them just after a meal, lovely meal, before fully satiated, they do not want anything else again afterwards. But in this case, the inhabitants of Dwarka felt they were never satiated. They were never fully satisfied. They just wanted to see the Lord again and again and again. You know, like in a material way, we get very bored very easily of seeing the same material objects again and again and again, because it does not have any transcendental connection to it. But the Supreme Lord is free from any material contamination, from any sort of material limitations as well. He's completely full of knowledge, full of bliss, and is eternal. Ishvara, Parama, Krishna, Satchitananda Vigraha, Nadi, Adi, Govinda, Savakarana, Karanam. So he's the primeval Lord. And when they see the Lord, it's almost like they see the beautiful sunrise every morning. They never get tired. They never get fed up. They never want to do anything else. They just want to keep their eyes on the Supreme Lord. So there was a story once when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya Prabhu, was taking darshan of Lord Jagannath Subhadra Baladev, and then he was just about to leave. And before he left, he congratulated the Lordships, Lord Jagannath Subhadra Baladev 3 times. And then he came to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, so you went to take darshan of the Lord?" And he said, Advaita Acharya said, "Yes, I did." And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Well, how long did you take darshan of the Lord?" And he said, "Oh, I was there for a very long time. I was taking darshan and so forth." And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "No, you did not take darshan of the Lord. While you were circumambulating the Lord, your eyes were not seeing the Lord at all. So you weren't taking darshan of the Lord." Of course, this is a little banter between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Advaita Acharya. Of course, the circumambulating is very important, but also observing the Lord. And it's so important when you come to the temple. I know that sometimes there's opportunity to see your wonderful devotee friends chit-chatting away in the temple room. But sometimes if you just focus on the Lord, it's in their splendor, their beautiful charm. And every day when we come to take darshan of the Lordships, we never get tired of seeing the beautiful form of the Lord. When the darshan, when the coach blows 3 times and the curtains open and the bell rings, and the curtain slowly opens and Govinda appears, I sung in the background, you know, we just feel so enlivened, so excited to see the Supreme Lord, the beautiful smile of the Supreme Lord, the way they're decorated, the garlands, you know, what sort of opulence they look for that particular day. And especially that's the case when you have a festival day, when you see like Janmashtami, where the pujaris are making so much of an effort, even preparing 2, 3, 4, 5 months in advance just to lay out the actual design of the altar, the design of the outfit, the colors of the garlands, and the type of flowers that are to be used to coordinate with all the rest of the ornaments that could be displayed. and it's all for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. And when you see the Lordship, then you feel immediately attracted to them. You say, this is not different from the Supreme Lord. So when these inhabitants of Dwarka, when they were seeing the Supreme Lord as he was walking through the forest, through the streets, they just felt so much love for him. They felt they were never satiated at all. They always wanted to see him again and again and again. And we heard these two particular words, because the Supreme Lord is infallible. And the word infallible here, does anybody know what the Sanskrit word for infallible is? If I scroll it down. As you know, there's two types. There's infallible, infallible. We briefly described that last week. Does anybody know what the word for infallible is in Sanskrit? Okay. Well, according to the translation here, is that truth infallible. So the Supreme Lord is infallible. Because although the Lord has mercifully descended to the earth, he is still infallible. The living entities are fallible because when they come in contact with the material world, they lack the spiritual identity. And thus the body maturely obtained becomes subjected to birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration like disease, and old age, and eventually annihilation. Whereas the Supreme Lord, he does not have to go through any of that, although we actually say the advent of the Lord, the birth of the Lord, but his appearance is actually transcendental. It's not on a mundane level or a material level like human beings when they go through these stages of birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation, which are all under the laws of the material nature, and also governed by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So further on, Srila Prabhupada explains about the importance about the Supreme Lord, whether it's his name, his form, his qualities. They're always complete, they're always pure, they're always transcendental. There's not a situation that one is less than another. But even I actually read the other day that the name of Krishna is even more dearer than Krishna himself, because when you recite the name of Krishna, then automatically Krishna listens and he hears that particular person, whether it's a devotee or non-devotee. Oh, somebody's calling out my name. So that's how dear the name of Krishna is. So that's what the emphasis on chanting the 16 rounds every day, attentively, without committing any of the 10 offenses, is repeated again and again every morning with the following verse, Trinada, peace and Ajena, that we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, making oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. And then in such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. But of course, in this material world, even though we're trying and endeavoring again and again, our mind is always perplexed, it's always bewildered, it's always going from one sort of thought to another thought. As I mentioned the other day, there's so many thousands of thoughts per minute, but somehow or another, we just have to control our mind, just refocus on the lotus feet of the Lord, our ultimate shelter. So the Lord, if the Lord is completely transcendental, so everything about the Supreme Lord is also transcendental. So a person who is actually devoted to serving the Supreme Lord, he never feels satiated by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Some of you may have been to a kirtan like Radha Deshmalo's or kirtan at the temple. Sometimes you just wanted to go on and on and on because it's so beautiful. Just hearing the names of the Lord with the association of the devotees. You know, I think a lot of us get attracted to many aspects of devotional service within the Lord, but chanting and hearing Shravanam, Kirtan, and Vishnu is the most important. So when we're chanting, we're also listening. And when we're listening, we also chant at the same time. So the Lord's name is completely associated. His form is no association in the chanting the holy name of the Lord, or discussing even the qualities and topics of the Lord. So there's a beautiful verse, it's one of the Chatushloka from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna, the devotees of the Lord, the thoughts about pure devotees to honor me, they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So the devotees are always engaged in topping the glorious pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His qualities, His name, His form, everything, pastimes. When we hear the Krishna Lila story, we may have read it many times, and we still want to hear it again and again and again. And even so nicely is that there's many other books that you can also relate to that tells so many wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord as well. So we never get satiated by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Earlier on, I was mentioning about the beautiful dashes that we take of the Lord's. We recite the prayer every morning through Vashtakam prayers. Shivagahara, Dada Nichanana, Shingaratan, and Nirvachanado. So the spiritual masters are engaged in deity worship. He also encourages his disciples to always engage in deity worship as well, because when you actually engage yourself, whether it's chanting or distribution, preaching, looking for the Supreme Lord, deity worship, you're always absorbed in serving the Supreme Lord for his pleasure, for pleasing your spiritual master, for pleasing the devotees. When you do that in that particular mood, the servitude, then of course Krishna will always be pleased with you. Regardless of all the difficulties that you face, Krishna will always protect you. And many of you, I'm sure you've got many stories that you can all share, if you're happy to share, where you found yourself in a very difficult situation and you remembered Krishna, and you were going through difficult times, and you're praying and praying and praying, somehow or another, difficult things becomes completely, there's no comparison at all when something good happens by the supreme will of the Lord. And for me, many times that's happened as well. When I've gone through difficulties and I've kept praying and praying and praying to the Lord, please help me overcome these difficulties I'm facing. Please help me overcome these challenges I'm facing. Please help me by all the influence of Maya attacking me in so many ways. And when you associate with the devotees, when you're actually going for the morning program, when your Sangha, meditation at home, taking care of your family, taking care of your deities at home, then certainly Krishna reveals himself and is always there next to you as your dear friend. So now I'm just going to read the last verse. This is verse number 26. Shriya Nivaso Yashodaha Pavana Patra Mukam Dasham Bhavoloka Palanam Saranganam Padam Pujam. Translation: the Lord's test is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. Purport by His Divine Grace, His Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Actually, does anybody want to take an opportunity to read this at all? Shangi,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read?
yeah, sure, if you want to, yeah.
Yes.
If you
Purport?
read, let me just see how long it is. Okay, what I'll do, I'll split it into two. When you come to the pure devotees always hankering, we'll pass it to somebody else, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. There are different classes of human beings, all seeking different enjoyment from different objects. There are persons who are seeking after the favor of the goddess of fortune, and for them, the Vedic literatures give information that the Lord is always served with all reverence by thousands and thousands of goddesses of fortune at the Chintamani Dhama, the transcendental abode of the Lord, where the trees are all desire trees, and the buildings are made of touchstone. The Lord Govinda is engaged there in herding the Surabhi cows as his natural occupation. These goddesses of fortune can be seen automatically if we are attracted by the bodily features of the Lord. The impersonalist cannot observe such goddesses of fortune because of their dry speculative habits, and those who are artists overtaken by the beautiful creation should better see to the beautiful face of the Lord for complete satisfaction. The face of the Lord is the embodiment of beauty. What they can call beautiful nature is but his smile. and what they call the sweet songs of the birds or bird specimens of the whispering voice of the Lord. There are administrative demigods in charge of departmental service of cosmic management, and there are tiny administrative gods in the state service. They are always afraid of other competitors, but if they take shelter of the arms of the Lord can protect them always from the attack of enemies. A faithful servant of the Lord engaged in the service of administration is the ideal executive head and can well protect the interest of the people in general. Other so-called administrators are symbol of anachronism, leading to the acute distress of the people who are governed by them. The administrators can remain safely under the protection of the arms of the Lord. The essence of everything is the Supreme Lord. He is called the Sharam. And those who sing and talk about him are called the Sarangas, or the pure devotees. Shall I stop now, or shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah, if you stop there, thank you so much, Indulika Mataji.
Okay,
Does anybody
thank
else want to read?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, sure. Do you know where we are?
Yeah,
Yes,
pure
the
devotees.
pure devotees, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
The pure devotees are always hankering after the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus is a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. They are like the bees who are always after the honey. Srila Rupa Goswami, the great devotee Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung the song. Okay, I've lost.
Yeah, that's it.
Sung about this lotus honey, comparing himself to the bee. Oh my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly, therefore, give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the resources for all transcendental honey. I know that even big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I know that big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible one, my ambition is such, for you are very merciful to your surrendered devotees. O Madhav, I also know that I have no genuine devotion for the surface of your lotus feet, but because your Lordship is inconceivably powerful, we can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of the heavenly kingdom, and therefore I am very much attracted by them. O Supreme Eternal, please therefore let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet, so that eternally I may be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. The devotees are satisfied with being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord and have no ambition to see his all beautiful face or aspire for the protection of the strong arms of the Lord. They are humble by nature, and the Lord is always leaning towards such humble devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Krishna Mataji and Indulika Mataji. So this is very beautiful purport as well. Prabhupada explains so many things in there, and trying to cover everything. Try my best, of course. The first thing we hear or read is that the Supreme Lord is served with all reverence by thousands and thousands of bodies of fortune in the Chintamani Dham. So once, quite a while back, we had a little discussion with His Holiness Bhakti Swami and some of his disciples at home at a house program. And Bhakti Swami, he was just saying, basically, he was just trying to encourage his disciples to try and be more active in spiritual progress, be more active in temple activities, be more sort of come to regular programs. The reason why he was saying that is because, of course, there's always feedback of, the devotees and the way the temple is run and so forth. So somebody just raised certain points about, oh, well, Maharaj, I'd like to come, but sometimes I see certain things that isn't quite right. And then it came on to a point about money. Money is a very delicate subject, even amongst families. I recall one time well, I won't mention the names, but anyways, there was somebody who's writing a will for somebody, and he actually mentioned that at the beginning, when you're all together, when somebody's not passed away, everybody says, "Oh, we're not interested in the money. No, we love him and so much." This particular person, who is like a professional guy writing the will, he said, "You'd be so surprised. As soon as somebody passes away, the first thing they do is like act like vultures, try to grab portions of the portions of the estates, finding out what the bank balance is, what the share is, and whatever's left in that particular will for that particular person." So people have different nature, and the topic about money was such an important thing. Bhakti Maharaj mentioned something so beautiful that I never ever forget. He said, "Why are you concerned about money, where it comes and where it goes? The Supreme Lord is married to thousands and thousands of goddess of fortunes. So he said he's not in need of anybody's money." And that reminded me of another story of Srila Prabhupada just now. So there was a very rich person, and they wanted to sort of canvas him to give some Lakshmi to Krishna. But this particular rich person was reluctant to give any money. He said, "Well, I'll think about it." But then eventually they told Srila Prabhupada, "Oh, this particular person didn't want to give any money at all to Krishna." And then they said, "Oh, should we pursue it?" And Prabhupada said, No, don't pursue it." And the reason Prabhupada actually mentioned, it's not that Krishna needs anybody's money. Krishna's not in need of anybody's money, but he didn't want this particular money in this case because, perhaps that particular person, Prabhupada didn't mention this, of course, but it wasn't the right time for this person to give. But sometimes out of envy, out of, sometimes you're a miser with your money and you don't want to part even a single coin, just like the Duryodhana, he won't even give a piece of land, the tip of a pin to the Pandavas, So this is what happens when you become very envious, very jealous, very miserly in your money. You just destroy your life altogether. So here the Supreme Lord is married to thousands and thousands of goddess of fortunes at the abode known as Chimdamani Dham. So there's two particular phrases that Srila Prabhupada had mentioned. I'll just scroll down so you can't see it. Just see if any of you are paying attention. So Prabhupada actually mentions in the purport something about a beautiful nature. What is that beautiful nature compared to? What feature of Krishna is that beautiful nature compared to? Anybody remember? So I've actually read this in another purport of by Srila Prabhupada. What they call beautiful nature is but his beautiful smile. So sometimes when we wake up in the morning, we see a beautiful sun rising, we see the beautiful sky. Automatically you think about the beautiful nature of the Supreme Lord, what he has created for us. And what is that particular verse? He says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Know that of all opulent, a beautiful and glorious creation spring but from a spark of my splendor." So can you imagine, just as the mature world, we see the beautiful side of Mother Nature, but it's only simply a spark of the splendor. It's almost like a drop of water in an ocean. Now, what was the other beautiful paragraph contextual Prabhupada mentioned about the chirping of the beautiful songs of the birds? What is that compared to of Krishna's qualities? Anybody remember? Okay. And what they call the sweet songs of the birds, but the specimens of the whispering voices of the Lord. And actually, I've read that phrase even amongst the Christian texts as well. But they actually say that the chirping of the birds is like the Lord's whisper in the morning. So sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you hear all the lovely sounds, the chorus of the birds chirping away. So that reminds you of the Lord whispering to you, "Come, wake up, Jeev Jango, Gorshanda Bole." It's time for Prashadam. So this further song, I'll just see if I can find which song this refers to. Does anybody know this particular song by Rupa Goswami? Srila Prabhupada mentions. Let's see if I can find it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Just a polite reminder, Indulekha Mataji is singing a bhajan shortly.
Okay, yeah, sure. I did
Thank
ask
you.
earlier on, but I did get a reply. So if she is, let me just see. Thank you for reminding me. We normally sing on a Sunday. No, it doesn't come up on Google. Oh. Okay.
And Sakshi Mataji will be reading the English translation first before Mataji sings. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Bhishma Stuti, Canto 1, Chapter 9. Laying on the bed of arrows while forgetting the pain of the weapons that had struck him, Grandfather Bhishma performs the prayer Stuti with great devotion of handsome Lord Krishna who is standing in front of him. Sri Bhishma says, I devote my intellect at this final time of my life at the feet of the infinite Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, which has been purified extensively through various spiritual endeavors and is free from all desires. The Supreme Being who continually remains situated in his glorious nature and also accepts nature with the desire of doing pleasures from which the tradition of creation remains. May I develop guileless love for Arjun's friend Lord Krishna, whose body is as beautiful as the three worlds, and hue is dark like a tamal tree. He who wears yellow garments that shine like the rays of the sun and has beautiful curly hair on a lotus-like face. In the battlefield, I remember that scene when my sharp arrows were piercing your skin, when your lotus face sorted the drops of sweat and your curly hair had become dirty from the blowing dust of the horse's blinkers. May my body, conscience, and soul surrender to such a handsome and armored Lord Krishna. May I develop supreme love in Arjun's friend Lord Krishna, who immediately rode his chariot between the two armies on being commanded by his close friend Arjun and reduced the lifespan of the army in the enemy merely by glancing at them. May my love remain strong at the divine feet of the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna, who destroyed the attachment of Arjuna by enlightening him by preaching the Gita when Arjuna had turned away from the battle due to the fear of committing a sin of killing his kinsfolk, on seeing us on the opposite side of the army. I had taken an oath that I will ensure that Lord Krishna lifts a weapon. To fulfill my promise and prove it to be better, Lord Krishna broke his oath of not lifting a weapon during the Mahabharata war. At that time, he jumped off the chariot and ran towards me with the wheel of a chariot like a lion charges towards an elephant to kill the elephant. He ran so fast that the cloth on his shoulder fell and the earth began to tremble. Blood was flowing from his body as I, the gangster, had broken his shield with my sharp arrows, and he forcefully continued to charge towards me despite Arjun trying to stop him. Despite being so ruthless, you were still affectionate towards me, your devotee. May my shelter be you, Lord Krishna. May I, at my deathbed, develop supreme love for this charioteer of Arjun, Lord Krishna, who not only looked beautiful protecting the chariot of Arjun with the horse's reins in one hand and a whip in the other, but also provide a salvation to those brave soldiers who saw this image of yours while dying. The gopis who were respected by Lord Krishna with a loving glance, sweet smile, loving gestures, and beautiful walk became engrossed in you while discussing your Leela's pastimes with utmost devotion when you disappeared during the Ras Leela. May my love develop in that Lord Krishna. During Yudhishthira's Rajasuya Yajna, you were given utmost respects and worshipped in front of my eyes in a senate filled with great rishis and kings. You, Supreme Lord Krishna, everyone's soul is standing in front of me today during my time of death. As the sun is known for its many forms, from many views. Similarly, unborn Lord Krishna in many forms in the hearts of humans created by himself. In reality, he resides in the conscience of every being. I have attained that Lord Krishna, having been liberated from all illusions and have known the supreme truth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. This is a very beautiful stuti. Usually, a stuti, prayers, or kavacha we recite at some auspicious time. We may recite every time, but this Bhishma stuti is mostly recited on the 5 last days, during the 5 last days of Kartik, Damodar Lila. 5 last days is Bhishma Panchak, where Bhishma Dev fasted on the Panchagavya, 5 elements derived from the cows, 5 projects from the cows. So that is many devotees fast, but that fasting is very, very difficult. We cannot do it in the Western world because we have to be near the Ganga to do that. And many devotees fast on some fruits, some eat one day, and some, like I fast on Ekadashi for the 5 days. And on those days, this Krishna Kavacha should be recited. If anyone recite, it is very, very auspicious, and they gain lots of benefit from it. So today I will try to recite it, but please forgive me. I have a kind of a itchy throat. Maybe I'm coming with a cold or something, but please bear with me. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, verses 32 to 42, Bhishma Stuti. Shri Bhishma Vacha Iti Mati Rupakal Pita Vitrishna Bhagavati Sattvata Pungave Vibhumni Iti Mati Rupakal Pita Vitrishna Bhagavati Sattvati Pungave Vibhumni Swasukhamupagate Kvachid Viharatum Prakritiumupayushi Yadbhava Prabhava Tribhuvanakamanam Tamalvaranam Ravikaragauravarambaram Tadane Kapuralakakula Pritananabjam Vijaya Sakhira Tirastume Navadya Yudhituragarajo Vidhumna Vishwa Kachalalita Swaravaryalam Kritasye Mamani Sita Sarir Vibhidyamana Tachivilasat Kavachestu Krishna Atma Vija sapadi sakhivajo nisamya madhye nija parayor balayoratam niveshya stitavati parasaini kayurakshna ritavati parata sakiratir namastu Vyavahita pritana Mukham niriksha sajanavadhat mukhashadu sabudhya kumati maharatma vidyayayas charanoratir paramashyata shamestu Swami Gama Pamaya Mat Pratigyam Ritamadikara Tumava Pluto Ratasta Dhritarata Charano Payakchalagdur Haririvahantu Mibham Gatu Tariyam Siddha Vishakahatu Vishirnadamsa Satajupari Plutavata Aino me Prashabhamabhisasat Bhatvadharatham Sabhavatu me Bhagavan Gatir Mukunda Vijayarata Kutumba Atatotre Tritahayarasmini Takshiyek Shaniye Bhagavati Ratirastu Nemumursor Yamiham Nirikshya Hatagata Swarupam Lalitagal Yati Vilasa Valguhasa Pranayanarikshana Kalpita Rumana Kritamanu Kritavatya Gunmadanda Prakriti Magan Kilayashyago Pavadba Muniganandripavarya Sankulenta Sadasidishtira Rajasuya Esham Paranamupapade Ikshaniyo Mama Drishiko Chara Esha Viratma Damimamahambajam Sarira Bhajam Ridi Stitamatmakal Pitanam Pratitrisam Ivanaikad Dharkamekam Samadigatosmi Vidhutabhe Damoha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Vishnu Titi ki Jai. Hare Krishna, please forgive my voice.
That was so beautiful, so well recited, Tilaka Mataji. It would be nice if you showed your video this time, so we could see you singing as well at the same time. I know a lot of devotees are very shy when they sing. Gosh,
my video is not too good, but next time, yes, I will change. Then I will.
Yeah, it'd be
yes,
nice.
I was requested to sing it by Sri Kishoriji Mataji, but yeah, next time I'll prepare myself. Hare Krishna.
It's a very nice meter as well.
Nice. Very nice bhajan, Mataji. Beautiful. Thank you very much. And Sakshi Mataji, well recited. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Does anybody have any questions or comments or corrections from our verses today, 24, 25, and 26 of Srimad Bhagavatam? Please do forgive me if I have made mistakes, and allow me to continue to serve you in a way that's actually pleasing and beneficial, and talking about these wonderful topics and glorious pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. Okay.
Oh. Hare Krishna.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, what I noticed that, these verses, one of the verses said that we ought to concentrate on his feet, not look at his face. So, like at the temple, everyone goes, they take look at Krishna's face, So this is so important, this instruction that we ought to look at Krishna's feet,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So actually in the Nectar of Devotion as well, it actually explains further details. And I do know it actually mentions about when you take darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you start from the lotus feet and then you work your way up to his legs, chest, and then of course his beautiful face. And I don't know if you remember, we actually covered a particular verse where Queen Kunti, she was feeling so shy, so that she did not want to see Krishna directly at her face. And also she did want to see his lotus feet as well at the same
With
time.
his feet, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, but Prabhupada actually explains in that particular purport that the reason why she did that, because she was considered to be senior in terms of like a position as an auntie. And even Krishna felt embarrassed that she had to go and see his feet. So yes, and he explains about that when we take darshan of the lordships, we should see the Supreme Lord's lotus feet first. So this is a strange topic as well, Krishna Mataji, because the other day I sort of upset somebody because I was just saying that we shouldn't touch Radharani's lotus feet. And I said, no, you should. What's wrong with that? And I said, well, it's just general etiquette. You don't lift up a lady's dress and touch her feet. Oh, no, but you're supposed to, you're causing an offense. You're just speculating. But, for me personally, just seeing the Lordship's lotus feet is enough to reward you with hundreds and hundreds of happiness in your life.
That's right.
Yeah. And we just have to be careful that sometimes people misinterpret it and say things whatever they feel.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think Krishna Mataji, you may have been in that Pujari meeting when somebody mentioned about devotees, Pujaris going into the altar, they lift up Radharani's skirt and touch her lotus feet, and they said no. Head Pujaris were saying no, we shouldn't do that. It's not very good etiquette. Even the China darshan we used to have of Srimati Radharani and Radhashtami, they stopped that because I think it's only done in Vrindavan, but not
they do
else.
it in Vrindavan,
Yeah, but they stopped any other temple from doing that particular festivity and seeing the Jnana Darshan of the Supreme Personality of God's Consort, Srimati Radharani, because we're not quite qualified until that stage to see a lotus feet or massage lotus feet. No, it's a nice point that you raised. Thank you. Any other questions, anybody? Or comments? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. This is about the basis for Chakapa to Visha,
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful
Thank you,
class.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Very
Thank you,
nice class.
Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu, for the wonderful Dwarka Leela lecture and beautiful Bhishmantvati recitation by Indulekha Mataji and English recitation by Sakshi Mataji. It was so blissful. Very nice.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.